We made a square of our vehicles, which we called a harbor. The next day and the day after and so on, we ventured out to do patrols around the town. Show of presence, we were told. Keep moving, we were told. Keep the Taliban wondering, we were told. Keep them off balance. Overall, however, the base mission was to support an ongoing American offensive. There was a constant roar. Of American jets overhead and explosions in a nearby village. We worked in very close concert with the Americans, engaging the Taliban in frequent firefights. A day or two after we'd established our harbor, we were sitting on high ground watching shepherds in the distance. All we could see for miles around were these men and their sheep. The scene looked innocent enough, but the shepherds were getting too close to the Americans, making them nervous. The Americans fired several warning shots. Inevitably, they hit one of the shepherds. He had been riding a motorbike. We couldn't tell from our distance if it had been an accident or deliberate. We watched the sheep scatter, then saw the Americans swoop in and pick up the shepherds. When they gone, I went out into the field with a few Fijian soldiers and picked up the motorbike. I wiped it down, put it aside, took care of it. After the Americans had questioned the shepherd, bandaged and released him, he came to us. He was shocked that we retrieved his motorbike. He was more shocked that we cleaned it. And he nearly passed out when we gave it back. The Americans fired several warning shots. Against the Iranian speedboats a couple years ago when somebody, Biden maybe, a year or two ago, they were trying to get back into the Iranian peace deal. And when they were trying to get back into the Iranian peace deal, you had a lot of people that were trying to be provoking, and so you had these Iranian speedboats that were like flying towards American ships, and hell, maybe the American ships were in a harbor they weren't supposed to be in, I don't know. But I know the American boats fired several warning shots, and an international incident was averted. Warning shots. There's a continuum of force. Police officers are taught at the academy on a continuum of force. You don't just show up to the scene and just start shooting everybody, right? To make it simple, I mean, it's like there's like 5 steps. At first, you start with commands. Hey, you! Drop that purse! Hey, you with the old lady's purse! Drop that purse! And then when the commands don't work, then you go to hands. And then when hands don't work, then you go to, I would say, soft weapons. And then when soft weapons don't work, then you go to firearms. But firearms, violence, these are the last. If you just walk up to a scene and you have no idea who is who and who is what, and somebody goes, that person stole a purse. Meanwhile, the guy who just pointed, he's the one that had the purse. If you're a police officer, don't just arrive on a scene and just start shooting people, okay? Now, when I think about the continuum of force, you have commands, hands, and I think it's more specific than that. Soft weapons like tasers and pepper spray, batons, and soft weapons. I mean, those are pretty tough weapons. Bear mace, just pull out a bear mace. But I'd rather be bear maced than, shot up like a piece of Swiss cheese, like a Sonny Corleone. Warning shots. I Googled warning shots in LexisNexis, and we haven't adjudicated warning shots. The only place I saw warning shots in all of Colorado law was in the failing decision, 1940 failing decision, which Joe Rogan, we're not going to allow wolves to just eat up our livestock. In fact, no dogs are even allowed to worry our livestock. They can't even scare them. They can't even bark at the damn cows. Because it's an industry, right? And so they're saying by scaring the dogs or scaring the cows can't produce as much meat, therefore you're hurting the business. In the failing decision, All you had was some dogs were chasing the cows. The guy goes back home and gets a rifle. I think them chasing the cows was worse than what he comes back and he sees that the cows were just off to the side eating some grass, and then the dogs were just standing nearby barking. And the guy who went home and got the rifle came back and shot the dogs. The dogs weren't on them. They weren't closing in on them. It wasn't like... And they're domesticated dogs. They're probably just having fun with the cows. Probably giving the cows some exercise. It just seems crazy. I fired a couple warning shots, but I fired a couple warning shots at a guy that tried to jerk his steering wheel, try to run over my dogs, because I guess that's a big fun joke, huh? Big fun joke. Maybe I'll run over you and your dogs. Who cares? Woohoo! That's not a crime. Gun rights in Colorado. This is the Make My Day state. We got the Make My Day state. We got castle law. You don't have any duty to retreat in Colorado. And not only do you have no duty to retreat, of course you can defend yourself, but you can defend other people. Article 2, Section 13 says defend home, person, and property. That's extreme castle law. Home, person, you can defend yourself, defend other people. Property, you probably could even bear arms in defense of, a $50 backpack or something. Colorado has posse comitatus rights in Article 2, Section 13. So you got a right to defend yourself, your home, person, and property. Posse comitatus, that means without, you have a right to bear arms in defense of home, person, and property, or in the aid of the civil authority. So the sheriff could come into the community and say, okay, you. Now I need all three of you. We're going to go arrest this one over here. So you can bear arms when you're helping the sheriff. You can bear arms. And that's actually really important. That's anti-KKK shit. You can't have KKK fucking gangs. You can't have an independent posse running around. The posse comitatus is just in that moment when there's an emergency. He just deputizes, the citizens that he probably knows and trusts. All right, you're deputized. You got a weapon? Bring your rifles. Let's go. And this goes back to the Wild West. You only had 10 houses, all 10 people. Basically, one damn bandit, one damn gang of robbers is going to wipe you out. So if you allowed somebody to wipe the whole damn caravan out and you didn't do a goddamn thing, it's all for one, one for all. Now, you don't come around here committing fucking crimes, you fucking piece of shit. So when the sheriff calls for it in Colorado, he can deputize the whole goddamn county. We got Make My Days laws. We got castle laws. We got posse comitatus rights. Rights. You can't just form your own posse. But when the sheriff goes to form the posse, you could join in with the sheriff. There's even extreme stand your ground rights. Not only do you have Article 2, Section 13, you have all these affirmative defense statutes. Colorado has citizens arrest and the execution of public duty rights. It was my public duty. There was a criminal in the neighborhood. It was my public duty to stand up. What do you mean? And the citizens arrest, we're all deputized in some respects anyways. If you see, probably, maybe not like little petty stuff, but then, was it intentional? Because petty stuff turns into misdemeanors, and misdemeanors turns into felonies pretty quick. Colorado also has a right to revolution. We, the people, have a right to self-defense as well. That's a right to revolution. And then we also have the 1960 Vigil decision, which actually comes right out of here of the valley, right here in the SLV in Conejos County, in Capulin. Old man Vigil was tired of the damn criminals. And old man Vigil, all he wanted to do is just go visit his daughter. That's all old man Vigil wanted to do. So he walks to his daughter's house. He crosses the street. There's a drunken gangster party right there in the middle of the fucking street. They start talking shit. They hit him. They hit him once. And he shoots him. And he said that he had this old gun and he didn't know what the gun, if it was even loaded or if it even worked. But I bet it was old man Vigil just kind of sick of the shit. Well, I got this old fossil damn gun. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. You got a right to defend yourself. You got a right to defend yourself from nature. You got a right to defend yourself according to the Constitution. You got a right to defend yourself if you're an intelligent person. Malcolm X said self-defense is intelligence. And that freaked the fuck out of white America. Self-defense is intelligence. Who the fuck would tell somebody not to defend themselves? When Thomas Hobbes, the first English philosopher, he says self-defense is intelligence too, and then he goes to a whole nother level. Thomas Hobbes says that self-defense is intelligence, and then the second rule of nature, we have a right to a social contract. We have a right to fair judges. We have a right to allow peacemakers fair passage, free and safe passage. Whole bunch of rights, actually. Do I have those rights there? I do. Thomas Hobbes. You want to know what Thomas Hobbes says? And this all matters because we didn't enumerate all of our freedoms in America. We still have a big gaping hole in American and Colorado jurisprudence. According to Hobbes, we have a right to traffic and commerce. We have a right to anti-incommodity, or a right to say the oath in our own religion. We can give up a liberty by consent if we want to. We have a right to judge of the necessity of the mean and the greatness of the danger. We have a right to submit to an arbitrator, especially mediators that we both agree to. Peacemakers get free passage. All the commons are for all the people. No man is fit to be judged in their own controversy. Judges can't be biased. They can't have a bent of mind. Witness C, D, E, and F will help with A and B to figure out the truth. When you have a controversy between person A and B, person C, person D, person E, person F, every witness that adds to the thing helps. Each and every witness. It should be like, if they're, especially if they're honest, good, decent people, then having another witness testimony, having another eyewitness testimony there is like having another video camera. You have a right to gratitude. You have a right to be gracious and to accept gratitude. You have a right to contracts. You have a right to have a system that enforces contracts. You have a right to be sociable. You have a right to forgive and to be forgiven. You have a right to be against pride. Be humble. What he means about the pride thing is that all men are created equal. So that means if you have a right to speak, then I have a right to speak. All men are equal in terms of political freedoms. Don't contumn others. You can't show contempt or hatred of others, because that shows that you want to war against them. And the whole point, go back to the number one natural law of Thomas Hobbes, self-defense. The actual rule is you pursue peace for as long as possible. Because that's the point of life, is to pursue peace, maintain peace. But when you can't maintain peace no more, then you war. Then you defend yourself. So he's saying, basically, you have a right to defend yourself. It's the last option, though. But you do have a right to defend yourself. Of course you do. Of course you do. And we didn't write that in the Bill of Rights. Right to speak, right to peacefully assemble, a right to defend ourselves. That should be, we should put that right, get that into law right away. Because it's clearly okay. Who would tell someone not to defend the person? I'm just thinking of, like, it would have to be hunters, right? So if you're like game hunters in Africa, you don't want the lion to defend itself. You don't want any of the damn, you don't want the lion to defend itself, because you want to kill the lion. You want to kill the lion who didn't do shit to you. Thomas Hobbes says, when it comes to justice, you look to the future good, but don't be cruel. Now, but justice isn't cruelty. Justice isn't cruelty. Justice is, that person hurts you, so you get to hurt that person, or that person needs to pay you, or that person needs to be in jail. Some kind of punishment needs to happen. That person injured you. That's the main point of the law. That person injured you. Of primogenitor, first possessor, first. So of all the things that we can't divide, if we all could share it, then we all could share it. We all can have the park, right? But if we can't divide it, then we're going to have to draw straws, or we're going to have to do first possessor. Some things only a few people get. Let's see here. Equity. For judges, you got to treat two people equally. Judges can't be biased. They can't have a bent of mind. No man is fit to be their own judge in their own controversy. Disputing parties agree to a common mediator, arbitrator slash judge. Anti-arrogance is kind of the pride thing. A freedom for one is a freedom for all. No, only I get to speak. You can't get to speak, only I get to speak. So he says you have a right to defend yourself, and then he says, and you have a right to a social contract between the government and the people in order to protect your civil liberties. What? What'd you... Hobbes, you went from 0 to 100 miles an hour, man, and this is a state of nature. The cavemen didn't know about no social contract. I mean, all these cavemen out here, they don't know about the damn social contract. So how the hell... But the point of natural law of Thomas Hobbes is that natural law isn't just from cavemen. It's not the law of the jungle. Natural law is a law of rational man. Some people say, we're all animals. No, we are rational animals. You're taking out you're taking out the most... We only got facts and logic. And you took out the most important part. Well, we don't have facts or logic, so we're just a bunch of animals. No, we're not. No, we're not. So after these messages, we'll be right back.